All right, today we're going to dive into a philosophy that kind of flips the script on what it means to live a good life. It's this super counterintuitive idea that real happiness isn't about chasing all the positive stuff, but actually about getting way better at handling the negative. You know that weird feeling, right, where you're anxious and then suddenly you're anxious about the fact that you're anxious? Or maybe you feel guilty and then you feel guilty for feeling guilty. If you've ever been there, you are definitely not alone. In fact, there's a name for this uniquely modern problem, and it's called the feedback loop from hell. Sounds fun, right? And it's this exact cycle that can take just a simple, fleeting bad feeling and spin it into this whole spiral of self-criticism and misery. Okay, so here's how it works. The crucial point is this. You get stressed about something, and then you get stressed about being stressed. You start thinking, why can't I handle this? What is wrong with me? And now you're not just dealing with the original stress, you're judging yourself for it, which just piles on another layer of anxiety. So why does this happen so often? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle is our constant exposure to, curated perfection. Our social media feeds are just these endless highlight reels, and they create this illusion that a flawless, happy life is totally normal. So when our own messy reality doesn't match up, we just assume we're the problem. And that self-judgment is the fuel that kicks the feedback loop in high gear. Okay, so if constantly chasing positivity is actually part of the problem, then what in the world is the solution? Well, it's this really surprising, kind of paradoxical idea known as the backwards law. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. The wanting to feel good just reminds you that you, don't. But simply accepting that you feel bad, that can somehow paradoxically make you feel better. It completely reverses everything we're taught about how to find happiness. This really lays it all out, doesn't it? See, chasing happiness is kind of like trying to catch a shadow. The more you run after it, the more it runs away, which just creates more stress. But on the flip side, accepting a negative feeling, just saying, you know what, I feel anxious right now, and that's okay, that totally removes the self-judgment. That simple act of acceptance stops the feedback loop in its tracks and actually becomes a genuinely positive experience. All right, so accepting our feelings, that's step one. But how do we actually apply this to the messy problems of real life? Well, it all boils down to this super important shift in mindset, really understanding the difference between fault and responsibility. And this difference is absolutely crucial. Fault, that's all about assigning blame for something that's already done. It's stuck in the past. Responsibility, though, is all about the choices you are making right now in this very moment in response to your situation. You can't control what happened, but you always control your response in the present. This little story makes it crystal clear. Imagine you open your front door and there's a baby on your doorstep. It is absolutely not your fault. You didn't ask for this, but it is now your responsibility to decide what happens next. Do you call for help? Do you bring it inside? The actions you take from this point forward are your responsibility, no matter who's to blame for the situation. And that leads to this incredibly empowering idea. Look, other people or events might be the cause of your pain. That's their fault. But you, and only you, are responsible for how you interpret and respond to that pain. In owning that responsibility, that's the real first step toward actually solving your problems. This way of thinking brings us to the next massive idea. If we're responsible for how we respond, we can start being way more intentional. And that means completely reframing how we look at problems. It's not about trying to get rid of them, it's about choosing better ones. We have this idea that happiness is a life with zero problems. But that's a total fantasy, right? Life is just a constant stream of challenges. They just get swapped out or upgraded. The real secret to a good life isn't avoiding issues, it's finding the issues you actually enjoy solving. And this is the question that really gets the heart of it all. Everybody wants the big reward, the success, the amazing relationship, but what struggle are you willing to put up with to get there? What kind of pain are you willing to sustain? Because that is what's really going to determine your outcome. It's so true. Your willingness to actually embrace the right kind of struggle is what leads to success. The person who gets fit is the one who learns to love the burn at the gym. The person who builds an amazing company is the one who embraces the long hours and the risk. The pain you choose defines the reward you get. But okay, what if you just don't feel motivated to face any of that struggle? We always think we need motivation before we can act. The do something principle just flips that whole idea on its head. Action isn't just the effective motivation, it's also the cause of it. So just do one small thing, anything. That action will create some kind of feeling, and that feeling will inspire you to do the next thing. Okay, so we've talked about accepting our feelings, taking responsibility, and choosing our struggles. Now let's zoom all the way out to the ultimate perspective, the one that puts all of this into its proper context. Okay, you are going to die. I know, that's super blunt, but hang with me here, because this isn't supposed to be depressing, it's supposed to be clarifying. Confronting the reality of our own mortality is one of the most powerful tools we have for living a more meaningful life. Think about it. When you really, truly remember that your time here is finite, all the little superficial things you stress about, they just kind of lose their power. It forces you to ask the big questions. What do I actually care about? What is truly worth my time and my energy? And that way, death becomes like a compass that helps you orient your entire life. And this, right here, is the ultimate question that thinking about mortality brings up. How is the world going to be different because you were in it? What kind of mark will you leave behind? And this isn't about being famous, it's about impact. It's about choosing values that are bigger than just your own comfort and your own pleasure. And that's really the big takeaway from all of this. True success isn't about getting to a life with no problems. It's about consciously choosing what's worth struggling for. In the face of all the chaos and uncertainty of life, that simple act of choosing what you give a damn about, that's where you find meaning and that's where you find true contentment.